Okay, here's step number 3. Attack your debt. What do we mean by that? Well, I like to call it the debt monster. The debt monster is wreaking havoc in our families today. You know, little kids were always afraid there was a monster under the bed or in the closet. They would hear sounds and think that monster, but we know they're not real. But the debt monster is real. Let me share with you some scary statistics. Do you know that there are 1.5 billion credit cards in America today? And the average home has 3 to 6 credit cards. And 60% of credit cards are not paid off monthly. That means within a couple of years, we're going to be way upside down. And maybe you know this, it's been in the news a lot lately, that the average college loan for students graduated from college is $30,000. Okay? And yet 47% of people in our country, they don't want to admit that they have a credit problem. But we know they do. So I came up with this little phrase. Here it is. You need to attack your debt before your debt attacks you. You do. You've got to. You got to attack your debt before it attacks you, because that's what debt will do. After a while, it's just going to attack you. Now, there's lots of reasons we get in debt. We try to keep up with the Joneses. And really, I just want to stop there. Who in the world are the Joneses, and why are we trying to keep up with people we don't know? But that's what we do. And sometimes it's just we have a hard time delaying gratification. We see that sweater, we see that coat, we see that bike, and we just want it now. We see the car, we just got to have it. But other times we call wants needs kind of a sophisticated way to manipulate to get more stuff. We call wants needs, and really sometimes we just can't wait on God, or we play this game that we deserve it. Like, yeah, you deserve that. Oh yeah, you deserve that trip. Oh yeah, you deserve that car. Oh yeah, you deserve that vacation. And for all of those reasons, we tend to get in debt. And so what do? Because listen, debt can lead to severe consequences. One is debt can lead to bondage. Listen to this verse, Proverbs 22:7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. You know, that's a powerful verse. It just says when we owe people money we cannot pay, it leads to a kind of bondage in our lives. But not only that, debt can destroy families. You know, in the Old Testament, if you couldn't pay your debts, you would have to put your sons into slavery until that debt was repaid. Can you imagine that? But today, you say, oh, I'm so glad we're not under that system. Today, do you know what the number one reason for divorce in our country is? The number one reason for divorce is fighting over finances. Now, couples aren't fighting saying, hey, we have too much money. We just can't handle this. This is just way too much money. No, they're fighting because they have so much debt, and it's creating stress and pressure in the marriage. So we need to be careful, because debt can lead to bondage. It can really destroy families, and it can also ruin God's reputation. See, if you and I call ourselves Christian, the word Christian literally means little Christ. If we call ourselves Christians, we're saying we're going to live like Christ. And when we don't pay our bills, that hurts Christ's reputation. And so we've got to get really intentional here. We've got to deal with the debt monster. We've got to be intentional about the debt monster, and we got to attack our debt. And that's why I use such an aggressive term. You can't be passive about your debt. You can't just be reactive about your debt. You have to be proactive. You have to be intentional. And yes, it's going to hurt a little bit. But you say, then what should I do? I'm in debt. And so many people say this. I'm in debt. We're overwhelmed in our family with debt. Listen, here's the first thing you got to do. You got to admit you got a problem. Nothing's going to change till you admit you got a problem. And then second of all, you got to confess the mess. You got to say, God, we're in trouble. We have a problem. But then you got to do one more thing. You got to decide to trust God to free you and to forgive you. And that's really important. You know, in 1 John 1:9, it's a really powerful verse. 1 John 1:9, but if we confess our sins to him, he is faithful and just to forgive our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. See, we got to go to God and we got to say, God, I really got a problem and I need to confess it to you. I'm really sorry. And God, I'm going to ask you to forgive me, and I'm going to ask you to cleanse me. And God, I'm going to ask you, God, that you can help us get out of debt. And so that's going to talk about putting a plan together so you can get out of debt. And so that's the third step you got to take. You got to attack your debt.